Ethan Walker had grown used to silence, so much so that some days, he feared it would swallow him whole. It wasn't the peaceful kind of silence people seek when they're tired. No. Ethan's silence was the heavy, echoing kind that came after losing almost everything. It clung to him when he woke up, followed him through each long day, and wrapped around him each night like an unwelcome shadow. And on one cold Tuesday morning inside a quiet café, that same silence sat with him at a small wooden table as he stared blankly at a cup of coffee he wasn't even drinking. He didn't expect anything to change. Not today. Not ever. But fate does not knock gently. Sometimes, it walks up in small shoes and asks a simple question that breaks a man's entire world open. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and moments that change lives forever, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe so more people can feel stories like this one. Ethan had once been the kind of man who never sat alone anywhere. He had a big, warm family, a daughter he cherished, and friends who filled every empty moment with laughter. But after losing his daughter in a tragic accident 2 years earlier, nothing felt the same. Grief had carved him into a different shape. Smaller, quieter, stripped of color. His marriage didn't survive the aftermath, his social circle faded out, and he moved to another town just to escape the reminders that lived in every corner of his old life. Yet no matter where he went, grief followed like a shadow that never lost its footing. That morning, the café's large windows let in soft daylight that felt too gentle for the heaviness Ethan carried. His gray t-shirt hung loosely on his shoulders, his fingers wrapped around the warm cup as if grounding himself in the smallest comfort he could find. The place was nearly empty, just the way he liked it. He kept his eyes down, avoiding contact, avoiding questions, avoiding all the things he wasn't ready to feel again. But then the door chimed. Ethan didn't look up at first. He was used to shutting the world out. But he sensed movement, small footsteps, light shuffling. And something about it tugged at an old instinct buried deep in his chest. When he finally lifted his eyes, he saw a little boy standing a few feet away, wearing a navy blue jacket, looking at him with a quiet mixture of politeness and courage. Behind him stood a woman who looked exhausted, not in the way of someone who didn't sleep well, but in the way of someone who had been carrying life alone for far too long. The boy held the chair beside Ethan, his small hand resting on the back of it as if unsure. Then he said, gently but with the innocence of a child who hasn't yet learned fear, "My mom is tired, can we sit?" The words landed in Ethan's chest like a sudden, unexpected burst of warmth that broke through the cold around him. He blinked, the world shifting slightly, and nodded without knowing why. The boy smiled, a small, grateful smile that stirred something inside Ethan he had buried deeply. The woman apologized softly, her voice gentle but strained, as she guided the boy into the seat. She looked like she wanted to collapse but was forcing herself to stay strong. Ethan noticed the small details, her trembling hands, her hesitant breath, the way she kept adjusting her bag as if using it as a shield. She introduced herself quietly as Claire, and her son as Jacob, then sat down with slow care. Ethan wasn't sure what to say, so he said nothing. Yet unlike before, the silence didn't feel cold this time. It felt shared. Claire looked around the café as if making sure she wasn't disturbing anyone, then let her shoulders relax for the first time. Jacob swung his legs gently under the table, glancing up at Ethan occasionally with a curiosity only children have, the kind that sees through walls adults build. Ethan tried to ignore the way Jacob's presence stirred old memories, but memories don't listen. His daughter, Emily, had been about Jacob's age when she passed. She had the same bright eyes, the same innocent confidence, the same way of making a room feel brighter just by standing in it. He swallowed hard, trying to anchor himself in the moment instead of drifting into the past. Claire noticed the flicker of pain in his expression and hesitated before asking if he was okay. Ethan nodded, but the truth was written all over his face in ways he couldn't hide. Jacob, unaware of the deeper currents, reached for the menu on the table and began reading it out loud, his soft voice filling the space. Claire gently placed her hand on his to quiet him, but Ethan shook his head slightly. "It's okay," he murmured. His voice was rusty, like it hadn't been used for anything gentle in a long time. Jacob beamed, and just like that, the smallest crack of warmth appeared inside Ethan's cold, guarded heart. As the minutes passed, the three of them shared a quiet moment that felt strangely comforting, like strangers sitting around the same fire on a cold night. Claire ordered hot chocolate for Jacob and tea for herself. Ethan watched her hands, steady but tired, and wondered what battles she was fighting. Life had a way of marking people, and Claire looked marked by storms she hadn't chosen. Ethan wasn't planning to stay long, but something kept him rooted to the chair. Maybe it was Jacob's innocent presence, maybe it was Claire's quiet strength, or maybe it was the unexpected feeling of connection, thin, fragile, but real. Claire eventually opened up about her day, then about her life. She didn't overshare, but the edges of her struggle were visible through every line she spoke. She worked 2 jobs. She was raising Jacob alone. She had no family nearby. She hadn't sat down anywhere to rest, not truly rest, in months. Ethan listened, not out of politeness, but because her story softened the walls around his heart one layer at a time. Meanwhile Jacob kept glancing between them, sensing something but not understanding fully. Children always understand emotions long before they understand words. At one point, Jacob leaned toward Ethan and asked the kind of innocent question that children don't realize carries weight. "Do you have kids?" Ethan's breath caught. Claire froze. The air stilled. He could have lied. He could have changed the subject. But grief, when hidden too long, sometimes spills out through the cracks. "I had a daughter," he said quietly. "She passed away." Jacob's face softened with the kind of empathy only children can give so naturally. Claire's eyes filled with tears. She tried to blink away. Ethan looked down, ashamed of having said too much, but Claire reached out and placed her hand gently on the table, close enough to offer comfort, far enough to respect his space. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. And for the first time in 2 years, Ethan felt that someone truly meant it. The conversation that followed wasn't dramatic, it was human. Real. Claire didn't pry, didn't ask for details, she simply sat with him in compassionate silence. Jacob reached out and touched Ethan's hand, just for a moment, as if offering a piece of childlike kindness that adults forget how to give. Ethan felt something inside him shift, subtle, fragile, but undeniable. Grief didn't leave, but it loosened its grip long enough for warmth to slip through. When Claire stood up to take Jacob to the restroom, Ethan watched them go with a strange ache he hadn't felt in years. Not pain, but longing. Longing for connection. For life. For moments like this one that made him feel human again. He thought they would return to their table and then leave, and he would go home to his quiet apartment and his quiet grief. But life was about to surprise him again. When Claire and Jacob came back, Jacob ran ahead and stopped in front of Ethan with a shy smile. "Mom said we should ask, do you want to sit with us again sometime?" Claire's cheeks flushed with embarrassment, but Ethan saw something in her eyes, hope mixed with fear, the courage to ask for connection even when life has taught you to expect disappointment. Ethan cleared his throat, trying to steady the sudden warmth rising in his chest. "I'd like that," he said. And Jacob grinned wide enough to brighten the whole café. The next few weeks unfolded like slow sunrise, gentle, patient, pushing back the darkness inch by inch. Ethan met Claire and Jacob at the café more than once. Then at the park. Then walking Jacob home from school when Claire worked late. He became a presence in their lives without forcing it, without expecting anything. He simply showed up, and they let him in. Not as a replacement for anything they'd lost, but as someone who could make the world feel lighter. Claire slowly opened up about her past, an unhealthy marriage, moving towns, starting over with almost nothing. Ethan shared more about Emily, not in broken fragments but in tender memories. Jacob, unintentionally, became the bridge between two wounded hearts. Ethan found himself laughing again. Smiling. Caring. Not just surviving, but living. One evening, after Jacob ran ahead toward the playground, Claire turned to Ethan with a softness he hadn't seen before. She thanked him for helping Jacob smile more, for being a gentle presence, for being someone she felt safe with. Ethan looked at her, truly looked, and realized something humbling and beautiful. They weren't fixing each other. They were helping each other breathe again. If this story has touched your heart even a little, please like the video, share it, and drop a comment. Your support helps more people find these emotional, healing stories. Before the ending, I ask you watching this, would you have let a moment like this change your life? Comment below. Months later, what began with a coffee cup and a simple question blossomed into something none of them expected but all of them needed. Jacob grew attached to Ethan, Claire found comfort in his gentle strength, and Ethan discovered that life still had room for love, connection, and second chances. And it all began on a quiet morning. When a little boy looked up with earnest eyes and said the one sentence that saved a lonely man's life. "My mom is tired, can we sit?"